There's very few things I like about life. I used to like everything. There's very few things I like about life lately. Smoking is one of them. Marijuana. And I've realised that this is giving too much power to the merchants that are occupying my temple. And there's no Jesus in this world to save the Baptists, despite all your poxy Christian blessings and endowments. These all are pretty crappy. So I've had to stop smoking. So it's crap. I'm not happy about it at all. I'm already through the woods though. The 3 days you have a really angry and grumpy stoner kind of considering me stopped doing a pot for 3 days. I'm through the woods now. And it's crap. I want to get back smoking, you know. I'm not addicted, it's easy to do kind of addictions. I can do that easily. My fortitude is amazing. But it's not going to be bottom, but I like smoking. And so it's the only reason I'm going to try and save your world. There's a song. I always liked it very much. He is Lord, He is Lord. He didn't die, He got up and walked around, 'cause He is Lord, He is Lord. I didn't like the Descant line, I used to do it. Knee shall bow, every tongue must confess that Jesus Christ was true Lord, is true Lord. But these things happen again, you know what I mean? I said this was going to be big bangs, there's going to be big bangs within big bangs and many big bangs kind of thing, so it's very hard to say just initial big bang unless they'd happen all the time. So that's why there's all big bang controversy going on in the world at the moment. Yes, He is Lord, and every tongue must confess. So you confess sins unto Jesus and stuff. This is a celebration of Christianity. I've explained this in other videos, but you must confess lordship. You must, because there's loads of people saying, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus. No, I know his name, and I can abuse the name of a lord in vain. And they abuse the name of a lord in vain, like my name or the name of Jesus. And they kill in the name, they do horrible things in the name. And they claim to be special and important people, where they're not. They're false prophets, bullshitters, charlatans, rats. There's dozens, hundreds of these all over the world at the moment. Chanting my name, saying my name backwards, and fornicating with my mother, my unlawfully wedded, so like allegedly married me to a woman, like I said, like Mary Magdalene. And there's about 27 of them, and like there's one in Poland, there's one in Greece, there's one in France. They've got these whores all over the world. It's Scarlet oblivious, like the Scarlet prostitute is oblivious. You always see her, and she looks stupid, like she doesn't even know what she's doing. CUNT, you know what I mean? That word brings the antecedents that bring upon the end of time. So you call things that are CUNT, a woman's vagina, and loads of assholes, like male assholes. These are, don't be a fan. And you call this a female genitals as well, because these are the antecedents that bring upon the end of time. Some oblivious woman, some poxy ditzy yoke that gets a modelling contract and is, I'm a princess, and I'm a princess now, and they just told me I'm a princess, and I've got all this money, and I am no widow, I am a queen. And yeah. Stop drinking beer as well, and kind of flavour some ginger beer. It's not real beer, it's just sweet beer. Beer is great. I can explain why beer is great, but anyway. And bad times of bad lordship, anyway, beer is great. You see a lot of people drinking beer, and that's why they've even destroyed it in this country. You can't get cheap beer anymore. Crap beer, and it's expensive now. Which is terrible, because you're in a time of bad lordship, and that's not going to fix the problem. People need the beer to escape the bad lordship. Drinking beer to escape the bad lordship. We'll be able to celebrate in the future, I suppose, imagine. If you're not trying to escape bad lordship. But this is why people are practically drinking cheap beer to death, drinking themselves to death around here. And I feel so bad for them, you know what I mean? They made the beer really expensive, and they made it really weak in Ireland. They made it really weak, really small, and then they've made it twice the price. And it's so crap for people that... When I was homeless, I drank cheap beer every day. I lived on it, and it was really important to get by, There's not much else going on in my life but the cheap, car packies and stuff like that. So, yes, lordship. Yes, you have no good lordship. Because there's a lot. So you'll see things like monkey. You see all the weather, and you see all the things in the Revelations. You'll see the Euphrates disappear, and they won't hearken unto a lord. There is a living lord. Yeah, hi. Just let you know. Yeah. There is a living lord, and you aren't hearkening unto him. Euphrates, monkeypox, and you still won't hearken unto the Lord. Yeah. Why do I know about all this? Yes, because I'm at the very centre of it. so they won't hearken unto the Lord. And this is where, again, the celebration of confession is true because the fact Jesus didn't care about your sins. He knew God knew your name, and nobody else really needs to know your name in life at all about you. The courts are very heretical. They're very nosy and heretical guards. You know what I mean? They're not going to heaven, man. Nosy little gypsies. But yes, he's celebrating the fact that Jesus didn't care for your sins or iniquities because he knew God knew your name. So he has no business for him, even as your Lord, or anyone else, to know your name or your sins or your iniquities. And I'm like this as well. I couldn't give a fuck what you do, and I'm very gay about it. But these people do care. They're eliciting confessions, and there's information wars, and there's lots of crap going on in the world, lots of blackmailing, say, going on in the world, and nobody's able to do anything about it. So he is Lord, didn't die. I got up and walked around again, and I walked around my local town, or my local town near where I live, and kids on the street knew I'd been killed, and like, oh my fucking God, what's he doing? What? Oh my God, he's still walking around. Because they knew I was murdered. I had my throat cut in my tent. I think this happened twice. I wake up with a terrible migraine, like a fucking mother of all migraines, and a big purple head on me, but better than dead, I suppose. Got up and walked around. Shot in the face, disemboweled. Any way you harm me, it would be onto you for eternity. But so you've no good Lord. And I said this in another video of the mafia Godfather. They're all dying at Passover together for some reason, and all the guys are like, Mo Green and all these guys died at the same time, and they obviously thought that somebody whacked them all at the same time, and they didn't, and the mafia guys knew that, and it's like, no, it was just all separate things. He got shot for cheating on his wife, he got shot for this, he got shot in vengeance, and they all got killed at the same time for separate things. And that's what he says to Kate. It's like, no, I didn't kill those people, but technically they are dead because of Michael. They didn't respect Michael. They didn't believe he was the Don, like Lord. They didn't believe he was a Don. As I kind of said in the video, I already explained this, it's a very unlikely scenario. You see, like Solazzi or the man that went into witness protection, and he did respect Vito as the Don, but the Sicilian boys know it's a very unlikely event that your kid's going to be the Don. You want your kid to be the Don, but it's a very unlikely event that this ever happens. Royalty. It was a very, very unlikely event that it does pass over. However, Michael saved Vito's life, if you remember, in the hospital. Saved his life. And that's why Michael is the Don. Michael saved the Don's life and had the potential to be a Don, to achieve in this being a made man, because he saved his father's life. So he was, but the lads didn't believe him, and they all died. And that's why you see at the very end, the Sicilian boys weren't stupid. They knew exactly. They didn't have to wait for the Euphrates to disappear or anything. They didn't have to wait for monkeypox. They knew straight away, it's like, there's a Lord we're not hearkening onto. We're not respecting the Lord. And that's why you see all the boys go in. They're like, of course, Michael. Of course, Don Corleone. I was in court CCJ, and some American solicitors, our female American solicitors, and she must have been, I don't know, outside the loop rather than inside the loop anyway. But I remember she looked at me, and I remember her looking at me, she goes, he's a Don? I could hear her thoughts. I was like, he's a Don? I was like, yeah, made man, you can't touch me. You do me no harm, and you'll follow my commandments. Another, this is off the point, but it's hilarious. Babylonian, sex slavery and sex magic and all. There's a point in the movie where you see all these big shots, all these, this is Mr. Man from the Nestle company, and this is Mr. Man from the electric company, and they go around the table and introduce, and of course, Don Corleone. Don was there. And you can't do him any harm, and you must do what he says. And he says, I don't want to see it near the schools. I don't want to see it near the schools. Now, you think they're talking about drugs. And they're not talking about drugs. This is kind of like a polite little, this is just a weird way of expressing it. Anyone that knows what they're talking about will know what they're talking about. But in the movie, they say they're talking about drugs. They're talking about Babylonian sex slavery and enslaving people spiritually. And Vito says, I don't want to see it near the kids. I don't want to see kids getting fucked up in this. Because that is happening. That happens big time. Their innocence and their purity gets dissolved, and they use them to wash the sins of adults, grown-ups, basically. And Vito says, goes around and is like, I don't want to see it near the schools. I don't want to see it near the kids. And you have to do what he says. And then you see all like the fucking pedo ring all sit around. Oh, well, Mr. Corleone, this is very inconvenient for all of us who like love buggering children spiritually all the time and are constantly buggering kids. And he's like, I don't want to see it in other schools. You'll fucking do what I say. So Vito's cool, Vito's very badass. But that was all about Babylonian buggery. Where was I? He is Lord, yeah. So you don't have good, honest, you don't have true lordship. And it's nothing to do about confessing sins on me. I wouldn't want to hear about your sins at all. God knows your name. But you, sadly, in all my humility, and it is a lot to do with humility, so it's very hard for me to say, must be recognised as Lord. In sequence and in history and transition, John and Jesus. And I'm not sure about the lordship of Muhammad, who was a prophet of Christ. He saved Christianity. They were buggering Mary Magdalene, the wife of Jesus, for 500 years until the son disappeared. This is what's interesting about these merchants that are fornicating in the temple. They'll do it. They're addicted to it. They won't stop. Like, it's a trippy. I don't know. I've never even, like, they cut me off and blocked me straight away. So it's not like I'd exploit myself anyway or abuse myself. But they won't stop their. It's like I said, they're addicted to the wine of the cup of her fornications and her delicacies. They won't stop, but then the whole world will suffer, and they won't. Like, we've global communication now, so we know, like, if these assholes in Florida, Donegal, all over Europe, are the ones causing all these global catastrophes. Like, Indonesia is flooded out, China is flooded out. All these different places are going to see massive consequences, and these lads don't even know about it, and they're sitting around bonking and bonking and bonking, and they'll keep doing it until the sun disappears, and then they probably won't even stop then. You know what I mean? Like, it's really escapism, you know what I mean? And they think it's more real than this world. But no, Babylon disappears and then they wake up in this world, as it says in the beginning. And they'll be like, oh, what is there in this life compared to Babylon? The weird hash and sex realm where they're exploiting my family and my name. And they're like, oh, what's in this life now that we're stuck here? And they probably got killed themselves or something, I'm already off on the shore, so and the world will be utterly fucking destroyed. You see famine, plague, the corn and the cob used to be all yellow under good lordship, under the true holy lordship of Jesus, and you can see how fucked up your corn and the cob is now. Holy Roman Empire was all yellow. All yellow, all yellow. And now you see how fucked up, and information in the corn has been revealed, as above, so below. They are harming heaven. They're trespassing and polluting and defiling heaven. They're learning things they're not supposed to learn, and seeing things they're not supposed to see. And they're all going around saying, oh, we're prophets, so we're this. And they're teaching more and more people how to do it because they need to be entertaining. So they're teaching people how to lie flat on like a snake and stare through. And you see China doing this all the time. Everyone's lying flat and they're like, let it rot. They call it let it rot. And it is exactly it. Babylon, let it rot. And they'll care more for it than this life. They'll murder in this world, hashashin, and they murder to get back in, or not get back in, just because someone will let them back in, and they're addicted, so they will actually go out and do things like murder or do whatever for these. They're like slaves. They'll do anything they can to get back to gain entrance again. Like access codes to Zion's mainframe or something. It have to be snakes and cheats. But yes, they are trespassing and harming high heavens, and bonking and having sex there, and I had a dream one time. It was weird. A big flying, I can't remember, it was like a big flying fucking bull or something like that. It was a fucking scary looking thing, but it came down and it transformed into some man, like, with a big gown. And it's godly, you know what I mean? And I was sneaking around in the corners behind the pillars, just watching from behind, like, kind of sneaking, watching. And he went up the stairs into some kind of like back tabernacle, like in a church. And there was like some goon, like he looked like a Rockefeller, and he was having, and I remember I kind of was floating around then, around it, and they were having sex like on the table, like you would see on an altar. They were like having sex on it, like it was a really sacred looking room, really special sacred looking room, and they're having sex on it. And he was really angry. This figure was really angry about it, and I was like, oh, who's that? And it was like Miley Cyrus. And I was like, oh, I don't care. I said that, like, oh, I don't care about Miley Cyrus, but ought to care about the fact that they're defiling some high and holy heaven was the point of the dream, I think. I was like, I don't care if Miley Cyrus is fucking a Rockefeller or something, but I was like, oh, they're doing it in high holy heaven, and they're gaining high access to high and holy heaven through my name, John. Yeah, they're harming and polluting heaven. I heard there's a virus in heaven now as well. They've caused a virus. All of this will disappear. all their powers or their potentials would disappear when I get a majority of people recognise true lordship. But actually, they probably still won't, because they won't confess my lordship. They'll lordship unto me. And in all humility, I'm sorry about it too. Like, I'm not happy about it. I'm a very humble person. I was a very hermetic person. Like, to keep to myself. I was at least very, very happy in my studies and celibacy and my privacy and my isolation. But yeah. Like 400 million people are under my name now, and they all have to recognise me. And I won't die until this happens. I won't die until they receive my full testimony. Which is terrible. I know I don't like that, because I'm going to be like Enoch or something now, or Methuselah, and I'm going to be dragged into like potentially maybe hundreds of bucks a years of torment. I'm not smoking, basically, and most importantly now it looks like things I might be dragged in. I wouldn't mind sitting around if I was smoking and fucking all the marijuana in the world for like in 400 years. But I'm gonna have to be sitting around and not smoking, and I'm not happy about this. I couldn't give a fuck really about your fish and your waters and your Nephilim sperm and your stillborn babies, but I like to have a smoke, my Yoda bong, you know what I mean? Me and Yoda being through thick and thin. So that's why I'm going to need to get this show on the road, guys. I'm going to really have to get this show on the road, because I'm not sitting around and being dragged into holy perdition, holy immortal perdition, without a smoke. So yeah, a little humility will do you well. This is they always say hearken on and recognise and maintain the true lordship and of Jesus, because it was very important. But again, these things happen again. These things do happen again, over and over and over again. And yeah, that's happened. And sorry about it. Look, I'm a nice person. I'm an intelligent person. I'm a friendly person. Like, so I'm not like, Dick Rockefeller or something like that. Like, it says in Revelations, because it was predicted this time he'll be cheated in a stable stability. He'll probably likely be cheated. I was completely cheated and ripped off. Exploit your... What is it that bitch said from Wexford? They mistake your niceness for weakness, and then they fucking she cheated me and ripped me. They all ripped me anyway. Gypsy fucking traitors. So yeah, true lordship, and it's kind of simple as that. There's a few other things that need to be done, like Potiphar. I need to work now. I need to work as well for 7 or 8 years to clean up their mess, to balance it out. So I'll have to work to clean up their indulgences and mess. And none of my friends and family can be harmed, and they all have to be safe and happy. That's the American flag, and that's how it stopped the famine in Egypt. Instantly, or that's how the famine actually came to an end, was when Jacob realised that Joseph wasn't dead, and that his brothers kind of had lied, not blatantly had lied, but he was just happy that he was still alive. He couldn't believe he was still alive. It was like a miracle, and that he had all the stripes back together. He had Jake, the father, and his 14 favourite people, which were his sons, and they're all safe and well and together. And that's what we have the American flag. It's the foundation for an abundant world. We'll all have stars. Everybody will have loads of stars and stripes. Gold trim around the American flag means it's also in a Christian stability. So if you have something that's in Christian stability, so which you don't have, it's not all yellow too anymore. What else happened in the bathroom? Look at these Medusa locks. I was thinking about dyeing them green. You know what I mean? Because I've got like loads of merchants and snakes in my temple, and it's actually very like the story of Medusa, driven absolutely batshit insane. I've got like Medusa here. Of course, there's going to be a band called Medusa out there. I'm going to do a metal band going with my friend now soon, and I wanted to call it Medusa, but of course there's a band out there called Medusa already. You know what I mean? Yeah, snakes. So yeah, hi. Not sorry to say. That's why people are always saying, not repent, but respect. That's true, Lord. And this is where Christofascism comes from as well. Because, you're going to be told that you're going to have to not respect, respect and reflect. SPs and FLs are kind of similar in English, but you're going to have to kind of admit lordship, and then people are going to be like, you can't force me to admit lordship. And that's why you get the idea of Christofascism, because people are told you have to confess lordship to Jesus, and people are like, Oh, you can't make me do that. But yeah, you kind of have to. You got these bastard merchants and temples and things, and you got them. You know, I'm okay for the bath if you're hopping in that.
You okay, Patrick?
Yeah.
Cool.
Touch on to that. Yeah.
Right, I did shout. You okay, Patrick?
No worries. Yeah. Cheers. So yeah. Yeah, I won't have a smoke. You know. So yeah. Little humility will go a long way for you. So you know, like I said, they won't stop, and they'll be seeing things and hearing things and loving it and committed to it, and they won't stop. And that's where like we get like Muhammad from. That's exactly explicitly where Muhammad came from. I'm not sure it was Christ that sent for Muhammad, but Muhammad was told, "You're going to need to chop off some heads and hands here, Muhammad." And it's weird. You can't doubt thou shalt not kill. But however, on this occasion, the Lord turned away from the world entirely because they kept fornicating. So it was for 500 years it took for the patience of Christ to turn away from his, like, you know, he just kept bonking his wife and persecuting and bonking his family, and then he eventually turned away and the sun disappeared from the sky, and Muhammad was told, you're going to have to chop off some heads and hands here, Muhammad. You know, chop off heads to put them down, but then chop off hands so they go and tell their friends. And so the people that won't stop will become these people. You will have to hunt them out and will have to gas chamber them, basically, because if they don't stop, like I said, it'll bring on perdition all over the world. So, you know, food, famine and war and pestilence and plague won't stop until they are all stopped. I'm not sure if it's a majority of lordship might do it better, like get the merchants out and just get people in with a bit of humility. I certainly wouldn't dominate, enslave or abuse or lean on the flock in any way, very shepherdly like that, you know. Or they are completely and utterly training you well. Going through your names, your orreries, finding out everything they want to know about you, training you to do whatever they want to make you, really can force you very strongly to eat. You know, they are completely manipulating and controlling you, and I wouldn't, you know, no worry. Very nice place. See, Jesus doesn't want you to see these things. This is when Christianity was in good, solid, and holistic form. You didn't have these weird dreams and visions and stuff, and people are like, well, you know, it's nothing new. Like, they enjoy it. They think they're special. They think there's some awakening going on. We're all psychic now, and it's not. It's bullshit. You've lost Christianity, and Christ was protecting you from these visions, protecting you. He was holding it all back, like behind a dam, and now they've ruined it. And they're seeing all these things, and they think they're impressive, and they think they're prophets, and they think they're visionaries, and they're thinking all this shit. But they a lot of hexing going on at the moment. All of a sudden, I'll talk to my dad probably. So they'll oh fuck, hot flushes. Sorry, they're fucking screwing me at the moment. What was I saying? Oh, for fuck's sake. You probably hear these things actually when you're watching this video. If you listen closely, you can hear them talk. They're insulting my mother. They're consuming true. They can control you basically to do lots of stuff, you know. Eat, and it really can drive you insane and screw or kill yourself even, or something, things like this. They conditioned me to kill myself one time, and it was very, very influential. Very influential, actually. To take my own life. So yes, they're training and they're controlling you, and Babylon, mind control kind of thing. I'm sure you've heard the Rastafarian people talk about Babylon and mind control. So yeah, so Jesus was protecting you from all this. So you might think you're at a loss if you're not seeing all these weird, trippy, devilish images and all this kind of stuff, but you're not. He was protecting you from it. And can you play with madness kind of thing? Yeah, just people can, and people do. But you're supposed to be protected. So you might think that it's at a loss and the world is going to be a really boring place when you lose all your Babylon. When they confess lordship onto my sad and sorry self. But you're not. You'll have better life. You'll have like clean water. You know what I mean? You'll have clean air. Like, you'll have nutrition. You'll have food. You'll be able to, you know, sing, smile, talk, dance. You won't be able to do these things with these bastards in the temple. I'm sorry, they're not the bastards, they cause bastards. They make bastards of perdition by fornicating with, unlawfully fornicating with other people's wives or angels. This is where lower angels, Malkuthi, kind of Tifrethia angels, or Tifrethia, Malkuthi. This is where bastards of perdition come from, and this is where a lot of schizophrenia is going to be caused by bastards of perdition from the fornicating with certain people. So yeah, it's not really at a loss. Like, you might think, like, you know, you're closing the box of Jumanji, and you're like, oh well, we're having fun playing, and it got really out of control. But then you need to close it up, and True Lordship unto me will close it up and will make it all disappear. Like, there's a few other things I have to do, but that's as far as yous are all concerned. Yous have to do this so I can have a smoke, and I'm really insisting on that. Like, you know what I mean? That's why I'm making this video. It's like, but yeah, it makes them very easy for them to exploit me when I'm anything but practically starving in the desert. And I'm not going to, like, you know, I could, no bother, but no, I'm not doing that. It's been done. And you all have to observe Lent and Ramadan because you let him or made him starve in a desert. That's why you have to observe these things. You have to observe the Lord's holiday. So whatever he's doing, you'll still have to do. So you kind of want me working and happy, don't you? You kind of want me to have a girlfriend or something like this, where as I have been suffering and absolutely persecuted, dominated, sodomized for the last 8-9 years, completely, utterly robbed, cheated, lost my home, all my friends, taken everything, dismantled from me. They have the ability to do this, to take everyone from you and disconnect you from everyone. That is your future. You will observe this holiday. You will observe the Lord's holidays. You will all suffer and starve and all be persecuted, cheated, robbed. You will lose your families. You will lose your friends. You will lose all your money. You will lose everything. And it's not that you're going to be happy about it, because, you know, they're predicting that you will lose everything. You won't have anything and you'll be happy. You will have to lose everything to survive. Basically, that's the only way you'll observe the holidays. So yeah, you know, you like a smoke. You know, if I'm smoking, if I'm a lord that likes to smoke, wrote a joke. Didn't get too bit upset when I was starved and broke. With wealth and fame, a dress the same. Jack quite kinda owes me 5, 'cause I'm alive, and they stole my name. And, like you said, predicted you'll know his name. Believe me, if he's alive, you'll know about him. But they don't. They conceal it, and they put it in vaccines and stuff. I don't know how they put my name in vaccines. They're supposed to do weird stuff, but they can do weird things. But they put my name in vaccines. And then I have little, like, you know, I was very patient and calm, but then now, like, you know, they put like 400 million people in my name, and I'm stressed and tormented and start like smacking myself in the face and hands and screaming loads lately. So you just get things like, you know, blood clots and sudden death syndrome, whatever you are. I couldn't care, to be honest, if you are all dying. Sorry, my misanthropy. I'm not usually like this. I was very loving, very, very loving, very, very loving and kind and caring person. You know, but yeah, you know, it could only take about 8 years of this where good people are all being dominated and persecuted, and horrible, horrible monster murderers, rapists are all being celebrated and endorsed and protecting each other. You know, they're desperately coveting and clinging onto the temple. So yeah, you can lose them by it's not confessing, it's just recognizing lordship of the event. And aren't you so lucky that I'm so clever to figure it out for you? I'm my own prophet, and that's what's interesting. Like, you know, he's usually the angel comes to earth, gets cheated, ripped off, the world falls into holy perdition, and then about 400 or 500 years later, like Moses or Muhammad appear and save the world from their mistakes. I'm saving you from your mistakes.